Hello, I'm Ron Deering, Manager of Distribution Safety, and with me today is John Snorbus, Lead Safety and Health Specialist for Distribution. On September 25th, 1997, two of our employees from the Dade Meter Department were involved in a very serious accident. Today, John is going to review with you the importance of using personal protective equipment.
Working safe is important to all of us, and to most of us, it just comes naturally. Someday, maybe the only thing that may save our life is being alert and using all the personal protective equipment that's provided. We all work in an industry susceptible to many hazards in our routine workday. And during the course of our career, most of us will experience a hazardous situation beyond our control.
For electrical injuries, we don't see as many electrical injuries as we do like flame burns and stuff, but they're the most devastating injuries because if an electrical current actually traverses your body, it usually ends up in some type of amputation.
It was September 25th, 1997, when two Florida Power and Light metermen were dispatched here to 650 West Avenue on Miami Beach. Their job was to set new meters for floors 24 through the penthouse. The story you're about to hear is spoken from the hearts of friends and co-workers. These two metermen were about to encounter their greatest fears up there on the 24th floor in the meter room of this building. The accident that occurred in this meter room resulted in a bus bar fire that was of unbelievable magnitude. It occurred when one of the metermen attempted to check for voltage, resulting in a 120-208 three-phase flash. The intensity of the fire from the bus bar flash was so incredible that it burnt the copper bus bar down to the load center and melted the surrounding structure. The crossphase was so fierce that the ionized gases resulting from the initial ignition kept the fire going until the power was manually disconnected. Both metermen were in compliance with Florida Power and Light safety rules and were wearing all their proper clothing and personal protective equipment needed for this job. This is Joe Prelezzo, the first FPO to respond to the scene of this accident when help was summoned. Joe, what did you encounter when you arrived downstairs and got out of your truck?
John, as you know, I've been with the company for 16 years. I've had my share of flashes. I thought this was going to be another typical flash. When I pulled up, road was blocked off by the police. Rescue was here, fire department, onlookers, media. I thought the worst. I came up here to the 24th floor meter room. On the floor right here was a hard hat, just like the one I'm wearing right now. The bill right here was completely melted back. The rubber gloves and protectors were all burnt off, especially around the fingertips. The whole room was just dark, charred. I thought the worst. I said to myself, one of my fellow co-workers is dead. I can never tell you or just describe to you the feeling that went through at that time.
With electrical injuries, there's three types of injuries that you may or may not see. One is the true electrical injury where the electrical current actually enters and exits your body. And when the current does that, what happens with electricity is that as it meets resistance, it produces a lot of heat. So usually it can go in through the hands pretty easily and it goes through the blood vessels, the nerves, but when it gets down to bone, it meets a lot of resistance, so most of the heat's generated there. So true electrical injury almost looks like you're burning from the inside out. So let's say I touched a live wire and the current goes in one arm and out the other. When I look at the skin, it can look normal, but inside can be completely dead, and that's what results in the amputations. The second kind of wound is from arc, where electricity jumps from one contact point to another, and those get up to like 2,500 degrees Celsius. So if you're just close to that electricity jumping like that, it can produce a flame burn, and then off of the flame burn or the arcing, you can get sparks that hit your clothing and then ignite your clothes.
These are the shirts worn by the metermen. As you can see, they're badly burned, but they did not ignite, nor did they melt. This is the hard hat that was worn by the meterman that was closest to the flash. Notice the extreme heat exposure at the top and the front of the hard hat. One's natural reaction when a flash occurs is to turn your eyes and your face down and away from the flash. The safety glasses. They're still intact, but they're very pitted from the spewing hot metals. These are the secondary gloves that were worn by the meterman, and they were closest to the flash. They were holding the Wiggins that was used to check the voltage. Look what the extreme heat did to all this equipment. The equipment did work. They did their job.
Something that's specific to electrical injuries is they usually hit men who are young, between the ages of 20 and 35, in the prime of life, and it usually results in some type of amputation. So the one thing I would say is that you listen, pay attention to the policies and procedures that are there for your protection, because you don't want to learn this by trial and error.
This is an extremely small meter room. It can't be more than 5 foot by 10 foot. With the amount of intense heat that was inside here, what helped these guys out?
I think, in my opinion, they propped this door open, and that was very smart. That was very safe thinking. Another thing is, right above here we have a sprinkler system, another one outside that went off. That helped. And of course, they had their personal protective equipment on.
Both management and IBEW are equally responsible and committed to safety here at Florida Power and Light. I'd like to introduce Ron Lewis, who is the Chief Job Steward at Dade Meters, and ask him a couple of questions about this incident. Ron, using the personal protective equipment that these folks did, doing the job right, what did that lead to at the end of the accident?
Well, wearing all their personal protective equipment was one of the most important things that they could have done. Although they received first, second, and third degree burns, it would have been a much more severe if not having those personal protective equipments on.
We've had young men lose both arms because they were using safety equipment that had a hole in the glove, and he didn't realize it. Electricity went in one arm, out the other, and amputations for a 25-year-old man up to his elbows. So you have to learn how to use arms again.
Even a routine job is exactly what this was, of setting new meters. Wearing their personal protective equipment was normal for them.
Yes, and it just goes to show you that you never know what's going to happen, and that's why you should always wear your personal protective equipment.
The installation we have here is so typical of an installation that you would encounter inside of a meter room. I see this is just what we would have normally.
This here, as you see how tall it is now, it was melted pretty far down. The bus bar was melted completely away. There was meters that were charred up too. Clipboard was sitting right up here. That was completely burnt. I cannot even imagine the amount of heat and pain that they must have gone through.
Well, burns is the type of injury that as it gets better and it's healing, it hurts worse, because you have all the raw nerve endings right there at the top. And I'm telling, I mean pain, like excruciating pain. If I just walked past you and you didn't have bandages on, would cause you to hit the ceiling with pain.
It's extremely hard on the co-workers, your friends and family when an incident of this nature occurs. And I think it's extremely devastating to the family and your loved ones when you do not wear your safety equipment.
Sometimes the families can't handle the crisis, and so there's a lot of broken relationships. And sometimes it's bad for the kids. If you have small kids, we do make arrangements so they can visit, but we try to counsel them before they come up and see like mom or dad, because obviously they're going to look a lot different. There's going to be a lot of tubes hooked up to the patient, a lot of bandages.
They followed all the rules, did everything that they should have done. They violated no rules. But if they didn't have on their personal protective equipment, this is what saved them.
75 to 80% of all burn injuries are preventable. If you just planned ahead, if you just thought ahead, if you just, taken the precautions that we're out there every day trying to teach the community and healthcare workers and electrical workers, if they just listened to us and took the time to look around to make their environment safe.
With the experience that I had, I always wear my equipment, and I've always felt that for my family and for my friends, it was important, not only plus myself. To me, it's selfish if you don't wear your personal protective equipment.
Ron, since the accident has happened, and after you've been talking with your fellow co-workers, how did that personally affect you?
John, it really personally affected me. It hit home. When I was younger, I had the unfortunate experience to see one of my younger sisters burnt over 50% of her body from the waist up. And this was devastating to me. It took me about 5 years just to get over the smell of that burnt skin.
Any type of burn, whether it's flame, scald, or electrical, it's gonna change your whole world. It'll change how you feel about yourself, how you get around, how you function, your relationships, and what you're able to go back to do as far as a livelihood. And since electrical injuries cut down a lot of young men in the prime of life, the financial loss to society is tremendous.